The train eased into silence with the long, exhausted sigh of something that had traveled far beyond its intended purpose. Metal groaned, brakes screeched, and a final plume of steam surged upward, drifting across the platform like a ghost still searching for the right place to linger. Through the shifting white veil, sunlight poured in, sharp, golden, startlingly pure after months drenched in the gray breath of the ocean. It felt almost indecent in its brightness, as though the sky itself was unaware of the war that had swallowed half the world. Yumi rested her forehead against the window pane. She had forgotten warmth, forgotten that glass could hold heat, that the sun could touch her gently instead of glaring off steel and water. America had a scent she had not expected, faint wheat, something soapy, and beneath both a softness she couldn't name. Something like the smell of forgiveness, thin, unfamiliar, and disarming. Her reflection hovered over the landscape rushing past, sharp cheekbones, hollow eyes, lips cracked from salt and fear. She barely recognized the girl who stared back behind her. The American guard's voice floated down the aisle, steady, soft, unmistakably courteous. "All right, ladies, we're here. Take your time." No shouting, no boots slammed into metal, no barked commands reeking of dominance. Only a calm voice cutting through the hiss of the train doors as they opened. The women rose, moving like silhouettes more than bodies, their clothes yellowed and faded from weeks at sea. Their hands clutched the few remnants of their prior lives, a brush missing half its teeth, a torn photograph tucked into a sleeve, a square of embroidered cloth carrying the scent of home even after the long voyage. They stepped out into an air that moved with astonishing gentleness, brushing against their skin like an apology. They had crossed the ocean believing they were being delivered into the jaws of cruelty. On the ship, the propaganda still echoed through their nightmares. Americans are monsters. American women are vipers. American soldiers are demons wearing human skin. Yumi remembered whispering to Sachiko during the crossing. Sachiko, who had sat beside her in school, who had braided her hair when they were 12. "If they try to use us," Yumi murmured, voice trembling, "we must die before letting it happen." Sachiko had nodded once, a fragile shadow passing across her face. She did not speak, but the silence between them felt like a vow. The ship had stunk of rust and fear, of bodies crammed together too long, of old vomit clinging to the floor. Some nights someone would sing, something soft and ancient, a lullaby from Kyoto. But an officer always silenced them. Even so, the song lived on in the hollow quiet, refusing to die. When land finally appeared, it didn't look real. It didn't look hostile. It looked soft. Abundant green fields, clean roofs shining like polished porcelain, trees shaped by wind rather than artillery. Sachiko whispered, "America, it isn't on fire." Now the women walked in single file toward a camp they had feared with every heartbeat since departing home. American soldiers stood nearby with rifles slung over their shoulders, held loosely, casually, without menace. Some looked barely older than the boys who delivered rice back home. One, unbelievably, smiled. The camp itself stunned them. White barracks, gravel paths raked neatly, laundry lines shifting gently in the breeze, a sign that looked almost cheerful. Camp Hedges, Texas. What kind of prison had laundry lines? What kind of enemy hung clean sheets under the sun? Inside the women's dormitory, another shock awaited. Rows of iron beds fitted with thick mattresses, all made up with crisp linens that smelled like sunlight. Beside each bed lay a folded towel and a bar of soap, milky white and stamped with flowers. Yumi picked up the soap, feeling its weight. Real soap, heavy, smooth, fragrant. She brought it to her nose and inhaled, and her eyes burned unexpectedly. "They're mocking us," someone muttered behind her. They want to show we're filth, another whispered. But that night when Yumi washed her hands, the lather rose, white and soft, cushioning her fingers. She stared at it as though witnessing a holy thing. That night she wrote in her diary, "The soap smells like spring rain. It does not sting, it reminds me of mother rinsing rice. How can I hate the hands that gave this to me?" The next morning when the bell rang for breakfast, the women braced themselves for watery broth, stale rice, punishment disguised as nourishment. Instead, they walked into a hall filled with trays of scrambled eggs, warm bread, butter wrapped in wax paper, strawberry jam glistening like rubies, coffee steaming in metal cups. Yumi froze. The smell, rich, roasted, warm, made her dizzy. The guard named Carter gestured toward the trays. "It's okay," he said. "Go on. It's for you." Sachiko lifted a slice of bread with a trembling hand. She bit into it. Tears fell silently down her cheeks. "This is a trick," another woman declared, "kindness before teeth." But morning after morning the food remained the same. The Americans called them ladies. They opened doors instead of slamming them. When Yumi caught a fever, Carter brought her medicine wrapped in paper and a wool blanket, still holding the sun's warmth. He placed it gently at the foot of her bed. "The doctor will see you in a bit," he said. "Rest." That night Yumi whispered to Sachiko, "If this is the enemy, what were we fighting?" Weeks drifted by. The women began to walk outside within the fenced perimeter. On the other side of the wire, America carried on with effortless grace. Boys racing bicycles, women snapping laundry in the breeze, cars humming down smooth roads that seemed untouched by fear. "They don't know," Reiko said one afternoon. "They don't know what war feels like." Later, the prisoners were taken to a nearby farm to help with chores. The farmer's wife brought them lemonade in sweating glasses, cold, pale gold, bright as sunlight captured in liquid form. Yumi took a sip and nearly gasped at how alive it tasted. "Thank you," she whispered in hesitant English. The woman smiled, taken aback. That night Yumi wrote, "For a moment I laughed. For a moment I forgot I was supposed to be the enemy. I don't know if that makes me disloyal or simply human." Sachiko only grew quieter. She prayed longer. "They want us to fall in love with this place," she said, "to forget who we are." "No," Yumi replied. "They don't want anything from us. That's what frightens me." Autumn arrived slowly, folding gold into every leaf. The camp's trees shed them like soft paper prayers drifting toward the earth. Letters from home came rarely. Trimmed by censorship and sorrow, Yumi received one from her brother. "Tokyo is ashes. Mother's garden is gone. We eat whatever we can find. Do not betray us by forgetting the enemy." She folded the paper and placed it next to her bar of soap, staring at both until her vision blurred. How could she explain that the enemy had given her warmth, that her hands no longer shook with fear, that she had not smelled burning flesh or heard a scream since she arrived? Some nights, soft jazz from the guards' barracks drifted through the dark, strange, melancholy, foreign. "It sounds like freedom," a woman said. "No," Sachiko replied. "It sounds like forgetting." Winter softened the roofs with thin layers of snow. The war ended. The women were told they would be repatriated. Some cried with joy, others with grief. That night, restlessness drove Yumi outside. She walked barefoot in the cold, wrapped in a blanket too thin for the wind. At the gate, she saw Carter, smoking a cigarette that glowed like an ember, clinging to life. "You'll be going home soon," he said. "Home," Yumi repeated. The word felt fragile in her mouth, an echo of something she wasn't sure still existed. "You'll see your family," he said softly. "If they made it." Yumi stared at the snow. Then, trembling, she said, "We did terrible things, our army. In China, in the islands. We believed we were righteous." Carter looked down. "Everyone believes they're the good ones." Yumi lifted her eyes toward the stars, unfathomably bright, unconcerned with human wounds. "This place isn't what they told us it would be," she whispered. "It feels like a heaven built by people who never knew what hell was." When morning came, the train returned, its whistle slicing through the cold like memory steam. Sunlight, wheat, soap. They boarded quietly. The guards shook their hands, some awkward, some sincere. Sachiko kept her gaze forward, refusing the past one last look. Yumi turned. The camp shrank behind her, a pale scar resting among endless fields. She opened her diary. "I leave this land with an ache heavier than fear. They fed us, clothed us, spoke gently. They expected nothing in return. I do not know what victory means now. I only know that kindness wounds in ways bullets never could." The train began to move, its wheels humming a lullaby she had never heard, but somehow recognized. The world outside blurred into soft gold. Yumi leaned her forehead to the window once more and closed her eyes. For a single fragile moment she felt suspended, held between two worlds, belonging to neither, claimed by both, not enemy, not traitor, not hero, simply human. And sometimes she thought that was the hardest truth of all.